this is Elizabeth Clare Brewington. I'm with Discover Bright Side, where we discover new authors and new books, and we have this amazing book club, and we just had our first of a many series with the children and teen authors. And so Stefanie is here with us to talk to you about another book. Now, why are we doing children and teen books, you might ask? Because we want to improve literacy. We want more kids to read, and we want to talk about it on our talk show so that we can get more people reading and starting libraries. Because as self-published authors, they have a huge task of getting you to buy books. And so we want to promote you to buy books. And I definitely think that this book is one that you want for your collection, because it's not just about speech and great things and excitement, but it's about a bulldog, and Lola is here too. So hello, Stefanie, and hello, Lola. And tell
Hi.
us a little bit about yourself and how you got started.
Well, thank you very much, Elizabeth, for having me. I am originally from Canada. I lived there up until 2000. I did start my schooling back in Canada. I did 4 degrees back there and then worked at a hospital for a period of time in Toronto. While I'm from Montreal, I did live in Toronto for a period of time. And then I decided to continue my education in California. So this is why I moved this way, much to my family's dismay, leaving them. But the nice time when I was leaving Canada, when you were becoming a speech language, or you still to this day are becoming a speech language pathologist, you have to take a licensing examination. And back 20 years ago, if you did schooling in Canada, you'd have to take the Canada one. And if you wanted to move to the States, then you'd have to take the American one as well. But when I moved, there ended up being reciprocity. So I figured there was no harm in moving to the States to do my schooling, because then I'd only have to take one exam and I can move back to Canada. So that's really why I came out here. And I ended up going to Cal State Northridge. And at that time, a lot of the professors that were teaching were writing the textbooks and doing a lot of the clinical work. And so I was very excited. I'm much more of a clinical based than research oriented. And Cal State Northridge had an actual on-site clinical school where kids would come. So it was very hands-on program, which is what I very much liked. So that's what brought me this way. And I've now been here 24 years.
Wow. So what part of Canada? I lived in Montreal and Toronto, and
So
I
I'm, yeah,
all, yeah.
I'm originally from Montreal, and my family is still there. I grew up in Westmount, but I don't know if you are familiar with Montreal West at all.
Yes, I am. The beautiful where because I was looking for an apartment, and the beautiful art center with all these great condos. Yes.
Yeah.
So yeah, we could talk on and on about the food and
Oh
Montreal.
yeah, you can. You can never starve in Montreal, but I feel the
Yes.
same way here in Los Angeles. You can never starve. But my family actually was one of the original founders of Montreal. We had the first sanitized dairy in Montreal. That's why I was asking if you knew Montreal West. So there's a famous dairy with 2 cow heads on it, and that was founded by my family. But then I did go and do schooling in Northern Ontario for a period of time. And like I said, then I moved to Toronto and worked at North York General Hospital for a year prior to moving out this way. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Hmm. Well, at least you're not underground everywhere. And
That's the fascinating thing about people who don't know Montreal is it's a city connected by underground. So in the wintertime, you never have to actually go
yes.
outside, and you can shop and eat and for miles under the city. It's a very beautiful city. I
Yes.
do miss it. I enjoy going back and visiting it. But LA, I've been here half my life now too. So
That's
also a home for me.
yes. So you are a speech therapist. So tell us all about, because speech, language, and pathology, and the whole audiology world that you live in. Tell us about what got you started, and what made you want to go in that direction.
Well, at one point, my mom thought I was going to become a professional student because I have 4 degrees. However, they all do intermix. Originally, I wanted to be an art therapist. So I did my undergraduate, I did a bachelor's of science in psychology where um, I felt that was a good profession to open up, like schooling to open up, and it could lead to different venues. I knew I wanted to help people, wasn't exactly sure in what context. So I started with my bachelor's of science, and then that's when I started thinking about becoming an art therapist. But back in the day, it was a very new field. There was only 2 schools in Canada that had it, and I thought, okay, well, let's see about it. So I did start doing my education, my second bachelor's in art education. And it was actually a guy I was dating at that time because I wasn't really sure if that's the route I wanted to take because it was a new field, but I loved art and I knew I wanted to help people. And I had been volunteering at a rehabilitation center with adults in Canada, creating all these language stimulation programs and, teaching art to a reverse mainstream school back in Montreal. And I had dabbled on the side doing speech therapy, but not really thinking about speech therapy. And it was a boyfriend at the time who said, why don't you become a speech therapist and then you can integrate your education background, your art background in speech therapy? And it was then the light bulb went off. And so that's why I moved to Ontario. I did a postgraduate diploma in communication disorders and sciences, fell in love with it. I did a clinical practicum, which is very unique to Canada's program, where I had over 600 hours of internship. And then, like I said, I worked at a hospital for over a year in the pediatric department. And then I came out to this way to do my master's of science in speech language pathology. But like I said, jokingly, my mom thought I was going to become a professional student, but all my backgrounds have actually been very integral in my practice, writing a book, understanding development, teaching. So everything has come together kind of nicely full circle.
Lovely. Sounds wonderful. And then I see that you've been awarded with the continuing education of Asha's for 5 times. Most people get it 1 time, so that's a 5-time honor. So how did that happen? And that's wonderful. Yeah, to be
Thank
awarded five
you.
times.
I love learning, even though, I've done all my schooling. I'm actually considering going back and doing a 5th degree when time allows. But that's one thing that I really do enjoy, even though it's required for us to maintain our license and we continue our education. The field of speech and language pathology is a beautiful field because you can either work in pediatrics, you can work with adults, and even within that area, there's so many different areas you can work in. I mean, you could be a feeding specialist, you could be an augmentative and alternative communication specialist. You could solely deal with disfluencies if you want to. So because of all the different areas you can work in, I'm continually striving to keep up with current trends and research, and also just familiarize myself with new programs that are coming out or different treatment methodologies. So I'm always doing more than is required for my licensure.
That sounds great. And now let's get to the bulldog. So what made you do therapy for bulldogs and why bulldogs? I mean, that sounds so much fun too. Yeah.
I've always had a fascination with French bulldogs ever since I was a kid. Prior to them becoming popular, I would always embarrass my family and friends that whenever I saw a Frenchie walking down the street, I had to say hello to every single one. But I wasn't in a position ever to have a dog at that time. I had cats, which I also love. And I just fell in love with this breed. Being a bulldog, they're highly stubborn, but they are the funniest dog. They're incredibly smart. They've just got great personalities. The size for her, as I was thinking about incorporating a dog into my practice, I thought the size would be good. It's a smaller dog, not too small, not too big. And so as I got older in my practice, when I left a company and I had opened my own practice, I started thinking more seriously about getting a dog and how could I integrate a dog into my practice to work with kids. So and she's been amazing. Listen, French bulldogs are great dogs, not without their medical problems, I will tell you that. But she is truly an amazing dog, friend, pet, whatever you want to call her. I mean, what you see here, this is her personality. And I knew she would be a good dog to work with kids because she's got a very calm personality. And so then I decided to pull the trigger, and then my mom started looking for a dog. She was looking for another dog. And at that time I was married and I was having problems. I wanted to get a divorce, and I thought, oh God, I'm taking on a dog. But my mother calls me and she says, I found your dog for your practice. And I'm like, no, I don't know if I can do it. And she's like, no, trust me. And she had actually taken Lola's brother. So when we go home to Canada, Lola sees her brother. But my mom was right. She ended up being the best thing ever.
Wow. So that's awesome. So what are the kids? How do the kids react to this therapy? What are you hearing about it?
Um, well, it's very funny because people who find out I have a dog, kids will walk through my office, and instead of like greeting me, they're like, we hear you have a dog. And I'm like, hi, nice to meet you. I'm Stefanie. So they all want to come and see Lola. And her popularity was so great when I first got her. I mean, it still is, but kids were trying to come to speech therapy more often. And parents were like calling me saying, can you send me pictures of Lola? And that's how kind of her social media started to come to be, because kids wanted to see her outside of therapy sessions. And so I was finding ways for kids to keep in touch with Lola and watch her, because when I got her, she was a puppy. She was 3 months of age. So kids wanted to see her grow. And I've had some kids that have known her whole life since I've had her. So the minute she started coming to the office, people fell in love. But then she had to go to school to do her training, and then kids were disappointed because she wasn't there for, a period of time. But she's been successful in so many different ways with both the kids that I work with and as well their parents and the families.
So, I love the book, Little Lola Frenchie, and what I love particularly is how you actually get to talk about all the different body parts. So it's a great idea to do bath time about your toes, and it's just soap and bubbles. So is this just a book that you just wrote, or does it help with speech therapy, or tell us a little bit about the book? Yeah.
I knew I always wanted to write children's books. I just never knew what was involved. And I'm a very big advocate, and something I discuss often in my practice with families, especially with little children. And this is not just for children who have communication disorders, it's all children. Children learn language through routines, daily routines. So having a bath, eating, getting dressed, going for a walk and seeing the same pathway that they're going on every single time, things that are in repetition. That's how kids learn language. Same thing when you're learning an alternative language. The frequency, the more you hear something, the more you understand, and that comprehension will help you build your vocabulary. So when I was thinking about writing a kid's book, I wanted to target all the developmental things that went along with speech development, which included high frequency words, routines. And the reason why I started with bath is because Lola actually is obsessed with the bath. People often ask me, or when they see, videos of Lola on her social media hanging out in her bath, she's literally just hanging out in her bath. And people think, oh my God, you're so mean to put your dog in the bath. And I'm like, oh no, she will sit for hours in the bath if I let her. So I thought this was a great way to start with daily routines of bath time, and body parts are extremely important. And I also wrote the book in rhyme because that also helps with pre-literacy skills. So even when kids can't read necessarily, with the repetition, they could start to figure out maybe what would be the next body part, what's going to happen next. So those are all learning skills, inferencing, problem solving, predicting, So even if a child very young, because I believe kids should be read to at a very young age, even if they're not particularly reading, they eventually start figuring out the prose in the book. And I have people sending me videos of kids sitting with the book and pretending to read because they've learned the rhyme, and then they have the pictures to go with the rhyming. So incidentally, they are actually learning.
Yes. And I love the pink and oh, it's so cute. And the little pink pajamas, oh, they're adorable.
Thank you.
Thank you for writing this amazing book. And I think it falls right in with us trying to promote literacy and getting people to read more and definitely get a little Lola Frenchie, whether it's a birthday gift or whether you want to get it for the holidays or you just want to have fun with your kids year round. I think this is just so precious. And it's also a great talking point to learn about bulldogs as well. So thank you for joining us. Stefanie, you've been discovered on Brightside, and we hope to see you back. And good luck with the book, and we hope that you have much success with it.